My name is Michael Stack. I live in Halifax, Nova Scotia right now, where I'm a marketing and media professional in the restaurant industry, as well as an aspiring comedian and part-time stage actor. But I'm born in Gander, Newfoundland, right in the middle of the island, where I grew up and lived until I was about 29 years old, and I came up to the mainland. For my schooling and education, I'm actually a university dropout. I went to a private college named Kean Technical College, where I did a 2-year business program focused in marketing. But I'm a big believer in the saying that earners are learners. So I've always been into self-education and doing as many courses and reading as many books as I can throughout my life. So for a lot of my life, I had really struggled with anxiety issues. I was always an anxious kid. I was anxious when I was younger, and even in my professional life, that anxiety was always kind of bubbling under the surface. And I always used to wear it like a badge and say, hey, that's the thing that drives the train forward. But you can only deal with anxiety for so long and not manage it before the dam bubbles over. So in 2009, I made a big career change. I left a 15-year fundraising career and I moved to the publishing industry, and that was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back. That was the one added piece on top of that anxiety that made me just completely fall apart. So I think the real reason for that was because, again, I hadn't been managing my anxiety. It was just there. It was a part of my life all the time. I was never really relaxed. And let's face it, change is scary and change is stressful. Jumping into a new industry, it was kind of like more than the bucket could hold. So it flowed over. So what happened after that was I basically lost my mind. I know it's not right to use words like crazy, but I do kind of own it like a badge right now. I became seriously mentally ill. Not only did my anxiety problem just become, 5 times worse, I fell into an 8-9 year battle with a serious depression where I would be like flattened for 3 and 4 months at a time, unable to function professionally, and just so inconsolably sad that at one point I got to the conclusion that I needed to commit suicide. Here's the frustrating part of dealing with depression over a long period of time like that. I tried everything. I tried antidepressants, and I seem to be that person that you see in the commercial, a small percentage of users may experiencing worsening symptoms. That seems to be me in a nutshell. I mean, I went through a 2-year period where I was a pharmaceutical experiment. I would get on one antidepressant, I would go through 10 days of brain fog, the antidepressant would kick in, my symptoms would get worse, and then another 10 days to get off, and it just completely flattened my business. I was doing exercise. I was doing cognitive therapy. I was working on my diet, but none of these things were working. So when you're doing all the right things and it's not working, boy, does that ever get hopeless. I eventually lost everything. Lost a lot of my relationships, but what you come to realize is the really tight relationships really stand by you. So there is that, you don't know what you got till it's gone. And boy, I had some really good family and friends that stood by me through the process. But I lost my career. I went broke. I lost my car. Yeah, I lost everything. And it didn't all happen in a big flash. It was over a very slow period. So it was long and drawn out and nice and painful. So when I was depressed, I basically became a junk food junkie. I made a lot of diet choices that actually piled on top of everything and made things worse. I drank a lot. I convinced myself that smoking a lot of pot was actually medication. So I really just went, face into that. Ate a lot of sugary foods, a lot of fast food, a lot of junk food and pop and sugar laden. And I have to tell you, that was probably the worst drug I was on, was sugar. I was a heavy smoker. So I kind of sought solace in a lot of short-term solutions that, gave me that kick in my reptilian brain, but ultimately did a lot more harm than good. This lifestyle, it took a real big toll on my body. I ballooned up from about 195 pounds all the way up to 255 pounds ultimately. I was a runner. I fell away from that. Ceased to really professionally function. Couldn't understand why I couldn't tap into my creativity anymore. And I'm a creative by trade, so let me tell you, that was very frustrating. And then all that added weight, boy, that started to put a lot of pressure on my body. I was getting sick a lot. My joints were hurting. So, I was not in good shape. So here's the thing about that, and I call it a lot of peaks and valleys, because all throughout that process I was like, boy, I want to get better, and boy, I don't want to feel like this anymore. So, I would latch on to something, whether it was something spiritual or cognitive therapy or a book or something like that, where I'd convince myself, hey, things are all better now, but I would come crashing down because I wasn't dealing with things at a core level. I wasn't setting myself up with a positive foundation for transformation. And then all that changed when somebody introduced me to Dr. Steen. So, my work with Dr. Steen changed things in a profound way. I would not be where I am right now if I had not met her. I don't know where I'd be. And as a matter of fact, there's a very real possibility that I might not be here at all, because I am convinced that she saved my life. I mean, after 8 years of trying everything and a lot of peaks and valleys and false starts, boy, that gets pretty hopeless, right? You're talking to psychologists and you're talking to advisors and you're reading things in the media and you're looking at books and you're doing all the right things. Still doesn't work. So that starts to feel pretty hopeless. So, at one point I said, this is enough. I'd rather be dead than live like this. So, I contemplated suicide. My life has taken a turn for the surreal. I mean, that's the way it feels, because things have come around like completely 180 degrees. When I look at where I was a year ago, and I have friends that tell me the same thing, close personal friends and associates, they go, boy, man, I hope you look in the mirror and I hope you appreciate where you are today and the things you worry about today versus where you were 1 year ago. I'm back in an excellent groove in my professional career. After a 25-year hiatus, I have come back to the stage. I've joined the Improv Conservatory at Neptune. I'm working on becoming a stand-up comic. So I'm back into that thing. My passion that I really love is performance. So I have to tell you, it's been a very profound change in my life. I not only feel like myself again, I feel like myself, but like the new improved version. Version 2.0. Yeah, so if I had to rate my happiness basis where I was a year ago, where I was a year ago versus where I am now, boy, a year ago I would have been maybe a 2 out of 10. I wasn't living, I was existing. Now I would have to say, hey, I'm probably at an 8 out of 10, because even though, I have a lot of things to clean up after being very mentally ill for 8 or 9 years. My life got a little messy. The difference is I feel like I can handle anything. I'm enjoying the journey. I enjoy the struggles. I enjoy the challenge. I live more in the moment. So, I'm pretty happy. Boy, you know what? When I look at the future, I actually see one now where I didn't see one before. You kind of look in the mirror when you're in the middle of the muck, and you're just like, boy, if this is all there is, if this is the future that lays in store with me, but I'd rather not have one if I have to just exist in misery like this. All of a sudden, Now I actually feel like I have a future again. I'm hopeful. I'm back to the things I have passion about. My business is growing. I have rich, deep relationships. So, I actually have a future, and boy, do I feel good about that.